Hi, and welcome to episode 92 of M1 Yarns and the Michigan Makers podcast. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Jamie. I'm your host and the dyer behind M1 Yarns. And this is a mostly knitting related podcast. We throw in a little bit of yarn dyeing stuff, a little bit of spinning, a tiny little bit of crochet because I'm really on the struggle bus with crochet. And some other crafty pursuits. So if that's your jam, stick around, grab some coffee, maybe your project, and let's chat. And before I forget, show notes are in the description box below. I always forget to say that until maybe the very end. But today I feel a little more prepared. So this is going to be a different kind of episode for two reasons. And let me explain. Number one, as I'm recording this, we are in, today is November 13th. And I'll release this episode later in the week. So we're in the last few weeks of the year. So now I think is always a good time to be thinking about the year ahead. I, in the past, have often done like one of those make 9 grids on Instagram where I talk about like 9 patterns I want to knit in the year ahead. And for some people, I totally get it. 9 projects is a lot. For me, 9 projects is very realistic. I think I've averaged over the last 5 to 7 years, I've probably averaged between 20 and 30 projects a year. And that might include a few hats, a few mittens. I've done skirts, I've done socks. I do mostly sweaters. But I definitely am a prolific knitter. I recently was hanging out with a girlfriend and she made a comment about something or other that we had talked about doing. And I said, that's how you know you're a lifestyle knitter. She said, lifestyle? I said, knitting is worked into literally your lifestyle. Like you think about it more than maybe once a week. You go to knitting or fiber related events. You travel to fiber festivals. If you generally try to knit every day, or let's say 4 or 5 days a week, you're probably a lifestyle knitter. But anyway, so now I'm on a tangent. Let me bring myself back to center. So it being the year end, now is the time I really try to focus on my knitting plans for the year ahead. So that's kind of the overall theme of this episode. And I knew I wanted to do this kind of episode within the next month or so, just so that I, for myself, can do a little bit of planning and preparation for the year ahead. Kind of take stock of what I have knit this year, maybe what I wanted to and did not get to for whatever reason, and then think about how that may roll into the next year. The other reason I am recording this episode now is that in a couple days I am having hand surgery for really horrific trigger thumb. That if you've been watching for the last year, you'll know I've been struggling with this for a whole year now. I've done cortisone shots, I've done all sorts of things, and I'm kind of at my breaking point. I am in a lot of pain, especially when I knit. Like it affects the pulleys in your fingers. And for me, like gripping anything really hurts and I'm losing strength. So I'm finally biting the bullet. I'm having surgery later this week. And because of that, I'll probably have to take a couple weeks off knitting. And so I have not been knitting as much for the last week or two, just because I'm in such pain, that I don't have much to talk about. But anyway, again, I'm on a tangent. This episode is about patterns I want to knit in the new year. And I was inspired. I'm going to grab my laptop while we're here and a little bit of water. this morning, it was funny. I had been thinking about recording this episode today. And while I was getting ready, I know this sounds weird, but I like to watch knitting podcasts while I'm doing my hair and makeup in the bathroom. I have this little shelf right at eye level. And I'll put my phone there and put on, you know, a podcast on YouTube. And yeah, it's just my thing. Anyway, I was watching my good friend Sarah's YouTube podcast, which if you don't already watch her podcast, it's called Coffee Knits with Sarah. She is a local to me, dear to me friend. She's one of my knitting besties. And on her podcast, on her latest episode, she talked about 5 sweater patterns she wants to knit next year. And I thought, you know what? That is actually a nice bite-size approach. I should not be focused so much on 9, as I mentioned I have in the years past, but 5, because that's really doable. You know, it's a bite-size amount. So, she got some new glasses. Check them out. They're from Zlul. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I just got these today. And I'm really loving them. So, I've got my laptop. Sorry for the glare. I know it's annoying. I have Ravelry open, and I'm going to walk through 5 new to me patterns, meaning I have not thought about knitting these much, if at all, before. And then, as a bonus, I'm going to talk about 5 patterns that have essentially been like right up there at the top of my queue, but for whatever reason, I did not get to this year. And we'll go through yarn ideas for both. So, without further ado, let's dive in. All right, for pattern number 1, this is a 2-in-1 because I have 2 options, and I'll explain why. So, I recently finished spinning 4 cakes of this yarn, spinning and plying, and this was fiber that I bought at New York Sheep and Wool Festival in 2023. It was a 1-pound ball, and I plied it with some gray, like you can see the little barber pole effect, yak sock yarn that I had like a few random skeins left over from when I used to stock that in my yarn business. So this, I put it on one of those cards to figure out exactly what weight it seems to be. And generally, this is not very even because I'm still a fairly new spinner. Let's see if I can do this. It wrapped up at a DK weight. So I was looking at DK weight patterns. I have 888 yards of this. So I was thinking a vest because I don't have enough yardage for a sweater. And I've been wanting to add more vests to my wardrobe. I do like to wear like a good puffer vest, or I have this LL Bean fleece vest that I wear a lot that's like, it covers your hips and butt. I wear that a lot for walking the dogs. So I have figured out I do like to wear a vest. So that being said, I have 2 vest options that would fit that gauge. And I'll insert some photos here. The first is Maggie vest by PetiteKnit. This, what do I want to say about this? The reason I have not previously thought about knitting this, it's worked flat. It says, it's worked from the top down. First, the back yoke is worked flat, back and forth, and shaped with increases. Stitches at the shoulders are then picked up and knitted along the top of the back yoke, and each shoulder is worked separately, flat, back and forth, with increases and decreases to shape the fronts. At the underarms, the fronts and the back yoke are joined to form the body, which is worked flat back and forth on a circular needle. Knitting flat is not my favorite thing, but I think that this yarn is so busy that it will hide any tension issues that I may have. And it's only a vest, so it's not a ton of knitting. So that's option number 1. Number 2 is the Open Trails Vest Worsted by Ashley Lillis. And I recently came across this. It is, the yarn weight is Aran weight. And I should say, this works up DK, but I feel like there's a lot of it that is pushing worsted. So maybe I hold it with something else, like a lace weight, which could be cool, or I figure out picking a size that would work for the gauge I'm getting. You know, make the math. What I like about this one is it's a crew neck, so it's very classic, and it would be knit, it's bottom up, knit in the round, so then obviously you split at the sleeves and then rejoin at the top. This to me appeals because it just seems less fussy. So between the two of them, I would love your opinion about, like if you've knit either of them, I would love to hear your thoughts, basically. Okay, so that's basically option, or let's call it pattern number 1 is, we'll just call it vest, because we have 2 options. Okay, moving right along. Next up, I want to knit the Shiftigan by Andrea Mowry. This came out in January 2023, and I immediately fell in love with it for a couple of reasons. It is steeked. I do love steeking a cardigan. The other thing I like about it is that it uses like a color shifting yarn, or it looks like she does some fades. But I happen to have, now which one was I going to do with this? I think, is this is DK. I bought these 2 skeins at Rhinebeck at the New York Sheep and Wool Festival this year. It's Feederbrook Farm. So this would be enough. So if I basically had my main color and then combined the other 3 contrast colors into basically one and just let this do its thing. So this would be like 1 contrast color. Or I have these 2 skeins, which is Primrose Yarn Company. I bought this at New York Sheep and Wool last year. So I could do this also. So these are 2 options. Either would be great. And what I would probably do, excuse me, for the main color is my own hand spun, because I have like, I forget how much it weighs. I have like 1 pound, no. I have 1.5 pounds of gray roving that probably this would look better with. And then I also bought 2 fleeces at New York Sheep and Wool this year. And they're both, no, one's grayish black and one is like a off-white. So the off-white one would look great with this. Anyway, that's a fun way to mix stash yarn with hand spun yarn. So that is pattern number 2 that I'm just throwing yarn all over the place here, that I really want to knit. Number 3, I love a good knit skirt or pants. I have knit both several times. So a girlfriend of mine, Claudia, recently was texting me about a brioche pattern that she wants to knit. I tried brioche a number of years ago. I could not get the hang of it, but that's not to say that I couldn't now. I mean, we grow as knitters and individuals, and sometimes it's just not the right thing for where you're at in life. So I was thinking I should probably get with the program and knit something brioche, but then it would definitely have to be something that I'm motivated to knit. So I combined the two things, knitting a skirt. Okay, sorry about that. I got a phone call and I had to take it. And I know last time I kept getting interruptions, someone said the obvious, put your phone on do not disturb, but I'm not in a position to do so. So sorry, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about brioche. You just gotta roll with it. I mean, we're all human here, right? So we were talking about brioche and skirts, and I was recently looking for a skirt pattern just because, and I happened to find one that was brioche and super cute. It's called the Alaska Skirt. This is by Alexandria. Let me put my glasses back on. Alexandria Menninger. And let's see. So the brioche definitely makes it cozy and insulated because it's a very thick, stretchy fabric. It does not say... I guess you have to buy the pattern to really get the full yardage requirements. So that's fine. If you are a brioche fanatic and you have a particular pattern that you love for learning brioche, by all means, please let me know. Okay, moving right along. I like to keep a summer top in my queue because come, you know, June, I want to continue to wear my knits, but I want them to be summer appropriate. So if I have it in my queue by like April or May at the latest, generally I'm thinking, when do I want to cast on a summer top? And I've done this for years, and now I have quite the collection of summer like tees and tanks, which I really love. And this one has been in my queue for quite some time. This is the Soho top by Caidree. It's simple. It's totally classic. It's worked flat and in the round. That's confusing because it's all garter, so it makes me wonder, like, why wouldn't you just... Interesting. Looking at the body of it, I'm thinking, why wouldn't you just knit 2 flat pieces and seam it up? But anyway, okay, so I've had this in my queue, like I said, for a while, and I just think that this is going to be the year for it. I'm actually planning to come out with a new yarn base for my shop next spring that this would be well suited for. So that's kind of in the back of my mind. So that's pattern number 4. And pattern number 5, I love me a good colorwork sweater. And my friend Sarah on her podcast that I watched this morning had this in her queue too. And I was so excited to see that she also wants to knit this, because there is nothing more fun than a knit along with your friends. So without further ado, the Alpenglow 1 by Andrea Mowry. I think this is super cute. I have no idea. I'm looking at my personal yarn wall. I have no idea what yarn I would use for it, and that's okay. We'll figure it out. I do love a top-down yoke construction. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that one. Now, on to 5 patterns that for some reason I did not knit this year, but still want to knit. Right up there at the top of my queue is a classic, is it a crew neck? It is a crew neck. Is it a raglan? Yes. Let's see here. The Lento by Jonna Helin. This this pattern is super popular. I get a lot of customers coming in my booth at fiber festivals wanting to buy 2 skeins of fingering and 2 skeins of lace weight to make a Lento. And I've had customers come the same customer to every show, and this is what she buys. Like at every booth, she just makes Lentos. She lets the yarn do the talking. So, I love a good classic sweater. I have some fingering weight yarn in my stash. I won't bother getting it out because we'll save that story for another day. But it's like a greenish, bluish, dark gray. I bought it at an event a few years ago, and I want to dye some lace weight yarn in like a deep navy to hold with it, because I really want a navy sweater. And in the picture of the Lento from Lina Publishing, she has what appears to be like bracelet length sweaters, or bracelet length sleeves. I really like that idea. And I really like the idea of that in a navy sweater. Totally classic. So, that is sweater number 1. Next up, the Avena by Jennifer Steingass. I've wanted to knit this for probably pushing 2 years. I dyed some yarn for my local yarn shop in the colorway, what's it called? I have some of it right here. Sanders Hot Fudge. They do a yarn club, the Motor City Yarn Club. And, what was I going to say about this? The yarn shop owner, who is just fantastic at Have You Any Wool, her name is Shelly. Shout out to Shelly. She used this colorway as the contrast color to knit this sweater. And for the main color, she used my beach sand colorway. So, like these. And her sweater turned out so beautifully that when I saw it, I was totally inspired to knit my own. So I have the yarn, I have it all caked up and ready to knit. I just never got around to it this year. I did cast it on. Something about the chart, I think I just was having a bad day, to be honest. And I could not be bothered. I love knitting a good color work chart. So, excuse me. That wasn't the problem. I have knit some of her patterns before. They are truly well written. So it's just really a matter of getting around to it. So that's sweater number 2. Okay, sweater number 3, the Stonecrop Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I have had this in my queue probably since it came out in August of 2019. I have the yarn all caked up and ready to go. It has been caked up for well over a year. And here's the problem. It is all over color work and texture, and it's fingering weight. And kind of ran out of bandwidth for it this year because of other projects. And then I did not cast it on because I figured all the color work and texture work and the fact that it's fingering would be hard on my hand. So I'm going to wait till my hand is fully healed and really like comfortably knitting plain stockinette before I try to cast this on. I really would like it, and I would really like it for the spring, but it is what it is. So when I do finally get around to it, I'll tell you about the yarn that I have for it. Yeah, so that's sweater pattern number 3. Sweater pattern number 4 is the Instant Crush by Joji Locatelli. This was published in August of 2023, and I immediately had an instant crush on Instant Crush. Love, love, love. I love that it's fuzzy. I love that it's color work. I love that it's bold. So I had some yarns pulled that I had thought I wanted to put into it, which is actually similar to the colors like these two of her colors. I had pulled these as well, not quite sure. I would like to mix in some navy. So maybe instead of the orange, that's where I could put the navy. And then I do love that rust. So we have options. Of course, I have lots of options. And again, another reason why I would delay knitting this is because it is all over color work, and it's a size 6 needle, so it's not a particularly small needle, but it might kind of aggravate my hand. So this might be something I knit for like next fall, but definitely one day. Okay, 5th and final sweater that I want to knit, and I have wanted to knit for eons, is the Flax Worsted by tincanknit. This is a free pattern. This has been knit. When you go to Ravelry and you look at how many people have project pages. Now, I get it. Not everyone posts a project page. So this has got to be an under, you know, this is like on the low end of the people who have knit this. 29.9 thousand project pages. Wow. I don't think that has got to be the most knit sweater pattern on Ravelry. It has to be. That's actually really interesting. Now I want to know what the most knit sweater pattern is. So I will do that, and I will put it at the end of this video. But meantime, let me talk about this pattern. The fact that it's free is amazing. The fact that it's classic is fantastic in my book. It is size inclusive from newborn all the way up to a 6XL. It is top down, in the round, seamless, worsted weight. And what I love about it is this garter panel that runs down the sleeve. I think that's really cool. I think this would be a fantastic pattern to knit with my own hand spun. So I kind of have that in the back of my mind. So I feel like now, like, I need to get on with knitting this sweater, for crying out loud. So those are the 5 newish to me patterns that I want to knit in the year ahead, and the 5 old to me patterns that I need to get on with. So, we shall see. If you have knit any of these and you have comments, by all means, please jump in the comment section and give me your thoughts. And if you have been inspired to knit any of these, let me know. So now, drum roll please, I'm going to look up real quick what the most knitted or project paged pattern on Ravelry is. Okay, this is interesting. I'm going to do a countdown really quick. The 5th most project paged pattern on Ravelry is the Flax worsted. Number 4, the Baby Surprise Jacket by Elizabeth Zimmermann. Number 3, the Fish Lips Kiss Heel by the Sock Therapist. I have this pattern. It is voluminous, and all you really need out of like the dozen pages is 1 page. But it's very educational. So if you've never knit a sock, it's interesting. Number 2, let's see here. With 36.3 thousand project pages, Hitchhiker by Martina Behm. I remember years ago, this was a very popular pattern. And number 1, Hermione's Everyday Socks. Almost 42,000 project pages. Really, are these socks that fantastic? I don't know. That's a good question. If you've knit them, let me know. So, that was some bonus content. That is all I have for you today. Thanks so much for joining me on this special episode. Please let me know what top 2 patterns you plan to knit in the year ahead. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you in a week or 2 with another episode. All right, bye.